Welcome to the show, everyone. Christian Jackson here with special guest, good friend Nick Olson of 24/7 Sports, our Wisconsin Badgers expert for today. Nick, thanks for joining me.
Christian, of course, man. When you reached out, I'm like, man, I can't wait to do that again. I know we talk ball throughout the season too, so this is gonna be fun.
So the Wisconsin Badgers last year
hmm
decided to play faster. A great offensive season. John Tonje comes out and becomes an All-American. Quick victory lap. I was gassing him up in our preview last year. But a really fun team. You lose to BYU in the second round, but I think this year, you still got some continuity and some really under the radar portal ads. So
hmm
tell me kind of any reflections from last year, just kind of Greg Gard's approach to this offseason and how this roster came together.
Yeah, Christian. First and foremost, you do get some credit, man, because I remember that Tanjay aspect. We both knew about his game. I just thought that he maybe wouldn't be the guy, and obviously he was. So credit to you, amazing kid, person. By the way, I mean obviously he was kind of closer to our ages at this point in his career, but he was amazing to deal with. And looking at last year, man, a ton of credit to Greg Gard and this staff, Christian. I think you really saw it, man, last season, but they started these wrinkles in the offense, I'd say about 2.5 years ago, with Kirk Penny on the staff. You remember the AJ Store year.
Mm-hmm.
That was when you really started to see glimpses. But last year, it was elite. And obviously, it was a good season. If I'm going off memory, 27, 28 wins, like really good for just about any program in the country. Ran into a buzzsaw in BYU that I'm sure is going to be really good this year, too. But I thought it was successful, refreshing, Christian, and frankly, very timely, man. I think that people were ready for that change, and I think it's only going to lead to more fun this fall and winter.
John Blackwell, got to start with him. We were talking
hmm
about that sophomore leap from him, 16 points, 5 rebounds a game. Um, Decent efficiency, 45% from the field, 32% from deep. I feel like the progression of him becoming the star, the engine of this offense, we're all waiting for it. I think he's ready for it. Tell me what's the expectation for John Blackwell? Because I mean, playing alongside John Tonje, you're not drawing the top guy, but I mean, I think we saw Blackwell score at a high enough level and feel comfortable in the system that we expect him to be able to step into a little bit more higher usage role.
Yeah, my dude, now he will be kind of the top name. Only player on this team that got the preseason All Big Ten kind of respect. I do think Nolan Winter maybe should have been on there, but I understand it's very deep. And obviously, he will be a little bit more a natural Christian, not having to be kind of the lead playmaker, because at times he was the one last year, remember? Because it wasn't Jay, it would be Blackwell or Max Klesmet. Obviously, they didn't have Chucky Hepburn anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be really natural. I will wait to say the new point guard's name because I know you're going to ask about him, but just playing off of that new portal pickup, I think a big thing he actually told me last week at Big Ten Media Days, which was cool. I think in your neck of the woods, closer to Chicago, he told me that basically he learned a little bit from JT last year in drawing fouls, being aggressive, taking it to the cup. And then I think he has worked on that 3-point shooting. I don't think he's going to be the 40-plus shooter from deep necessarily. I don't think he needs to be. But as you know, for the NBA, at his size, what he does, if you can get that to 34, 35 plus, that's massive for his future as well as his Badgers offense.
Nick Boyd, man, am I excited about
Yeah.
this fit. Couple years of Florida, 3 years of Florida Atlantic, was on that Final Four team, played a really key role, steps up the next year in higher usage, and then goes to San Diego State for a team that was offensively challenged, a great defensive team, but outside the top 100 offensively. And he, you know, watching them, it just pops with just how savvy he is out there, how skilled he is, his comfort, his leadership. I'm really excited to see Nick Boyd fit into Wisconsin. What's it been like, getting him to Madison and how he's just kind of fit along these guys?
Yeah, Christian. So that's the point guard that I alluded to. It's really intriguing, man. I'll say first and foremost, I just put out a feature on him. If folks want to
Oh,
check
cool.
that out this week, I got to speak with him. Spoke with a coach at his post grad school at Don Bosco Prep a couple months ago. And basically, what you know about Boyd is he can score, he can handle, he likes to play fast, and there's going to be a lot on his shoulders. Obviously, he is going to be the primary ball handler. But what I love about him is just how quickly he can operate, whether in obviously kind of the full court transition, but even the half court. We have seen him take guys off the dribble in practice. I think he's going to work on getting his efficiency up and things of that nature. But it'll be really intriguing. I think it'll be beneficial to Blackwell having a PG like that. And then Boyd, is he an NBA guy? Obviously, that's really, really tough to get to, especially as he's been in college game longer. But he can make money playing this beautiful game for 10, 15 more years. And I will say, Christian, I'll even give you a little nugget that was mostly for the VIPs on 247. But man, guard and staff beat out North Carolina, and they also beat out a very, very, very aggressive offer from Washington to land Boyd. Obviously, he's going to be well taken care of in Madison, but this wasn't just an NIL play. He loves JB. He loves Guard and the staff. Like, Guard is a really, really likable person and a relationship builder. And I think it's going to be a pretty not picture perfect fit, but very natural fit, because once he gets things rolling, he's going to only increase the offense, which will make it look even more perfect.
Love the ad. Love what he brings as a winner, as a veteran ad. Another experienced transfer portal ad is Andrew Rodie, who was a stud at St. Thomas, goes to Virginia, and just did not step up the way that people expect him to. And then last year, he was much better. And the playmaking took a step up to 4 assists per game. And the three-point shooting got back to where it should be, above 40%. He seems, I don't know if this is just because he's a white guy, but he seems very Wisconsin to me with just his savviness offensively, his ability to play make from the wing and just be this kind of do-it-all guard. What are the expectations for Andrew Rodie coming in here?
And Christian, he actually is from Wisconsin. I'm not sure if you knew that. So he is a Wisconsin guy in that sense. He is from Brookfield. Brookfield, I think he played at Central. Badgers knew of his game well for a long time. Obviously goes to St. Thomas, good program, makes the big leap up. It's funny, I was at Iowa State, and it was really between the Cyclones and Virginia and Tony Bennett. Goes to play for TB, who Greg Gard has a world of respect for. And I'm glad you mentioned that growth last season, because he was actually a damn good player on a not so good team at times. And so he is the guy that I am pitching as guys aren't talking about him enough. I really enjoyed my conversation with him last week. Man, you talk about, so you've kind of got your superstar on the wing in John Blackwell, right? You've got your primary ball handler and maybe driver in Nick Boyd. Rodie can shoot the lights out. We have seen it with our own eyes. We're very lucky we get to see some practices. He is a good passer, like you mentioned. And man, he's a dog on defense. Like, he will get down. He is tough. I think he's pretty athletic. He's strong. This was one, I mentioned how they got Boyd, but like, Rodie was a bit of an upset because he went to Iowa State for a visit, and many thought he was going to go there. There was just kind of this hometown pull. And again, I mentioned, of course, the Badgers have been a good program, one of the most consistent in the country for 25 years. But I think that's the one that, everybody talks about JB and Winter. Nick Boyd's kind of the huge name, but Andrew Rodie in his role could be that level star, if that makes sense. I'm thinking maybe 9 to 11 points a game, 3 or 4 assists, like you mentioned, and just working on that defense as well.
Wisconsin's pace last year and just the way they generated shots and shared the ball. A guy like Max Klesmit, there were games where he was taking 8, 9, 10 threes. I feel like that could be Rodie. Do you think, if you had to guess now, is he going to make the most threes on this team next year?
Well, I guess I will lead into it for you. Who I think makes the most threes in this group, man, is Austin Rathe. He is the Portland transfer. Dude is like 6'9", 6'10". Christian, you know my history a little bit, man. I've covered some of the NBA players you have in the back there. I have covered some Sweet 16 teams, an Elite 8 team in Wisconsin. This dude is one of the best pure shooters I've ever seen. And I mean that. There were days at practice he was pulling up from 32 feet in live session and drilling it. And I'll never forget, there was an NBA scout there from the New York Knicks, and a couple of the staffers were like pointing at this kid. Do I think he's an NBA player right now? Probably not. But if he can get a little quicker and he brings that efficiency level to the Big Ten, that's the name you need to know. And I understand I am, speaking positively about a lot of these guys, but as you'll come to find out near the end, it's a damn good team if these guys can stay healthy. It's an old team. It's funny, he's one of the younger guys, and he's already won a Freshman Player of the Year award in the WCC, a conference I know you track well. So I think he's probably going to be the leader. Maybe Rodie's the guy that kind of gets some of those Klesmit looks, the open looks as the third or fourth guy, but Yeah, Rap is very, very legit.
So rare for so he comes from Australia for a freshman to, who's that big to take 231 threes in a season. You just don't really see that much. And for him to, the way you describe him pulling up from that deep, like that's pretty wild to me. I see he was third in the WCC in block percentage, seventh in defensive rebounding. How do you see him faring guard? There's a lot of good forwards and bigs in the Big Ten, obviously. How do you see him guarding and just adjusting to, more consistent physicality and athleticism?
Yeah, so it's an area that I think we had mentioned in early evals he'll need to grow with. I think he would tell you that himself. I mean, one of the coolest personalities. I actually just put out a story on him this week too. It's an area that will take some time, but he knows it. He's not like a guy that's just coming in to be a chucker, if that makes sense. He knows what he needs to do. He's actually gotten some good defensive rebounds at the practices. He's pushed the ball in transition. He can move a little bit more quickly than maybe you'd think at his size at 6'9", a true 6'9", 6'10". There are going to be some guys that are faster, maybe stronger. That comes with time. Not, telling you he'll be on the all-defense team, but I think he's already gotten better. And I think if you play for Greg Gard, Joe Krabenhoff, Sharif Chambliss, Lance Randall, the staff, you need to be able to play defense. And so he knows that. And I think it's going to be, if Rodie was the under radar pick, this might be just the best fit because you just talked about all the potential with the offense. Frankly, I don't know how some more blue bloods weren't after this young man, to be honest.
I have a feeling you're going to have some really high praise for Nolan Winter. Your expectations for him here. Steven Crowell is finally gone. It feels like he was there for forever. One of those guys just
He
starting
was
for 4
there
years.
5 years, yeah.
5 years. There you go. But Nolan Winter, I love the way he moves. I love his hustle. He's smart. Is he a guy that can scale up and average a double double this year? Turn that 9 and 6 from last year into like a 12 and 10.
Yeah, 100% on the points. I think they will need that from him because he is looked at. Christian, I know you love some pro hoops too. He has started to get on draft boards. Obviously, not too many guys can move like he can at a true 7 feet, just over 7 feet. He told me he's about 246, 250 last week. But the thing with him is yeah, he will need to add to those rebounds. He's a fine rebounder, but he'll need to add more because while Crowell wasn't always a double double machine, like he had the size and he would work down there, whether he'd win the reps and get the boards or not. So I think so. I'm looking at probably, if you ask me, probably 13 points to what? No, 13 or 14 points. We'll say 13 and a half, and even 7 or 8 boards would be terrific, right? Because as we know in the college game, those are spread out a lot. There are a couple guards that are really good rebounders as well. But that'd be terrific. I mean, if he does that, Christian, on decent efficiency, you're probably looking at a draft entry. Does he then go? We'll see. He told me last week how much he loves it here and he's in no rush, which is pretty cool. And why would you be, right? In Wisconsin and Madison, and they're taken care of well with NIL now too. But he is the one that I've actually seen on the most draft boards out of this group that probably has 4 or 5 eventual pros at any level.
So I'm loving the starting five. My questions with this Wisconsin teams comes from the bench. You got 4 freshmen coming in, a couple of transfers from the American, Braden Carrington from Tulsa and Elijah Gray from Temple, and then you bring back Jack Janicki, who in 11 minutes game last year, gave you a nice lift. I kind of want to toss it over to you. Who are guys 6, 7, and 8 here? Who do you have the highest expectations for? And what's this bench looking like?
Yeah, so I'm pretty confident in 6 and 7. It's likely going to be Jack Janicki, who the guys love. He's kind of your glue guy. He can do a lot. He's improved his shooting. He can defend. He's a good basketball player. Braden Carrington, probably in that 7 to 8 range. Remember, he was a Big Ten guy at Minnesota. Really good, impactful one of those years. Then goes to Tulsa. I think grew his game a little bit, but he's coming in super humble dude. Really defense, rebounding. If he can hit some open shots, great. He just wants to play on a good program, wrap up his career. That's what he's going to be doing. Now, after that's where it gets interesting, Christian, and where I'm glad that you're asking an expert like myself, because there are a lot of questions. Elijah Gray, I think he's been a little bit dinged up. I think there have been kind of some learning curves when you come in that late. I don't know exactly what his role will be. He would be kind of the most experienced out of the group. Again, a nice couple notes for you. Will Garlock, a true freshman from about 15 minutes from the Kohl Center, and a young man named Hayden Jones from New Zealand. Now, it's a good freshman class. Don't be shocked to see all of them get some run in non-con. But those are the two that I think maybe are the most translatable right now. When you hear them talk about Will Garlock, it's like a unicorn, man. He's a true 7'1", 250, bouncy. Like, these guys love him. And then Hayden Jones doesn't play like an 18 or 19-year-old. Simple as that. He plays like a junior, like some of those Syracuse guards maybe in those deep teams that they can hit shots if needed, but really just kind of do everything right, glue guys. Kansas has had a lot of those players. They're excited about this guy, and I'm telling you, they're very, very intrigued with this group. I think some of the youth will have to step up, and I wouldn't be fair not mentioning Alexis Bialuskas, the other freshman big man, and Zach Kinziger, another Wisconsin guard. So who I think probably gets the most minutes out of those four, probably Garlock and Jones. But I'll guarantee you two of those guys will be in the rotation.
Anything stylistically that you think could be different this year than last year, or just any specific points of emphasis this summer?
Yeah, I think they're only going to shoot more threes. I think legit everybody that starts in that lineup can be a shooter. So I think that'll be intriguing. They're looking to play a little bit faster with Nick Boyd. And again, it's an old team. I mentioned the bench, but that starting group, two juniors that have played since they were freshmen. And then you've got, obviously, I think Boyd, who is at least a fifth-year guy, Rodie, a true senior. Like, the guards are old, man, and they're deep. I mean, you could see 6 different guards playing in some of these games if you put Carrington as like a guard and not a wing. So it'll be really intriguing. I think if I had to have like a question mark on the group, it would be kind of the backup big minutes and maybe rim protection. But I think if they play decent enough rotational defense, especially on the perimeter, they'll be back in the tournament, of course, as you expect at Wisconsin. And I believe, Christian, this is the year that they snap kind of the streak and get back to that second weekend.
Love it. That would be awesome in Madison. I like this roster a lot. A few more style. So you said taking more threes. 16th last year in three-point attempt rate, which jumped all the way up from 226th. Number 1 free throw shooting team in the country last year. And you mentioned that rim protection. 300, you've been in the bottom 50 nationally in block percentage the last 3 years. But Stephen Corral, he's not there anymore. It could look a little different. And if you get something from this freshman, Garlock, maybe that could unlock that. But Greg Gard's got a good thing going in Madison right now, and I just think they were very certain. I think a lot of teams are getting smarter about how they attack the portal and find fits. I feel like it was a lot of box score watching early. It's just a mad scramble in the early days of the portal. Wisconsin is one of those programs that I do think is just ahead of the curve in just terms of the fits that they're looking for in the portal. Any final notes or nuggets from Media Day or anything before I get you out of here, Nick?
Yeah, it's a super fun group, man. I mean, you don't live too far, if I remember correctly. So, like, bring a buddy, try to get up to an early season game. Truthfully, I'm biased, as you can maybe see my degree somewhere back there over to the right. I did go to Wisconsin, so I got a lot of love for the program. I think Greg Gard is one of the true good guys in this business that has obviously the business has turned a lot about money and transactions, and he keeps it real. I love what you said about the portal. And yeah, I'll just say don't be surprised. Now, I think we can probably agree Purdue should win this conference, but don't be surprised if this Badgers group is playing again near the end of that Big Ten tournament run, because that's what they've been doing. And I will say, just my only concern about this team is really health. If they can stay healthy, keep that depth, dude, you're looking at a very, very fun winter ahead in Madison.
Awesome. There you have it, Nick Osen. And as he mentioned, that those feature stories you're writing, if you're a Badger fan and you're not subbed to the 247, I don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to link all Nick's stuff below. Nick, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure, my dude. Appreciate you.